Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Our today's lesson is about Geoffrey Chaucer. In this video, we shall learn about the life of Geoffrey Chaucer, his poems, his contribution to English literature, and why Chaucer is so important to the students of English literature. So, watch the video till the end. Chaucer, is the first major writer of English literature, the father of English poetry, and the grandfather of English novel. The date of his birth is uncertain, but it is generally accepted as being 1340. It is assumed that he was born in 1340 in London in an affluent family, his father, John Chaucer, being a wine merchant. So, Geoffrey Chaucer was born in 1340. 1340. He was born in 1340. He was a favorite patron of John of Gaunt, son of King Edward III. Chaucer served as a soldier and a diplomat. He was often sent to abroad, either to France or Italy, for diplomatic mission. He faced financial up and down throughout his life. In spite of being a recipient of royal pension and bounties. He, in his lifetime, saw three different kings on the English throne, and they are King Edward III, Richard II, and King Henry IV. He died in 1400. He died in 1400 and was buried in Westminster Abbey, that later came to be known as the Poets' Corner. So, this is about the life of Geoffrey Chaucer. And now, we shall move on to his works, his contribution. Geoffrey Chaucer was a professional courtier, a kind of civil servant. His writing was a sideline rather than a vocation, but he wrote magnificently and profusely. It is very difficult to say in what exact order his poems were written, but now it is customary to divide his poems into three phases: French phase, Italian phase, and English phase. So, now on, we shall discuss his poems in different phases. So, the first phase of his poetic career is French phase. French phase. The poems of the earliest or the French phase are closely modeled on the French originals, and of such poems the longest is the Romance of the Rose. The Romance of the Rose. The Romance of the Rose. It is a It is an allegorical poem written in octosyllabic couplets based on Le Roman de la Rose of William de Loris and J. D. Mew. It is based on Le Roman de la Rose, a French poem by William de Loris and J. D. Mew. Second poem of this group is The Book of the Duchess. The Book of the Duchess is a lengthy dream poem on the death of Blanche, the wife of John of Gaunt. And other significant poems of this group are An ABC, The Complaint of Mars, The Complaint unto Pity. In Complaint unto Pity, Geoffrey Chaucer experimented the rhyme royal stanza form. So, the poems of these groups are The Romance of the Rose, The Book of the Duchess, and ABC, The Complaint of Mars, and The Complaint unto Pity. In Complaint unto Pity, Chaucer experimented the rhyme royal verse form. Now we shall move on to his second phase. The second phase of his poetic career is Italian phase. Italian phase. In 1372, Chaucer had been to Italy and came in contact with the works of Dante and personally met with Petrarch and Boccaccio. Boccaccio alone exercised a deep influence on Chaucer's art during this period. The chief works of this phase are The Parliament of Fowls, The House of Fame, The Legend of the Good Omen, and finally, and the best among them is Troilus and Cressida. So the poems of these groups, chief poems of these groups are: number 1, the Parliament of Fowls. The House of Fame. The Legend of Good Omen, and finally Troilus and Cressida. Troilus and Cressida. Chief works of this Italian phase. Chief works of Italian phase are the Parliament of Fowls, It is a political allegory. Political allegory. It is a political allegory. The Parliament of House. The House of Fame is a dream poem written in octosyllabic couplets based modeled on Dante's Divine Comedy. The Legend of Good Omen is a poem in which Chaucer intends to tell 19 effective tales of virtuous women of antiquity who died for their love, such as Cleopatra, Dido, and Lucrece. This poem is best known attempt in English literature to use the heroic couplets. And the final poem of this page is Troilus and Cressida, perhaps the best of this group. Troilus and Cressida is one of the best narrative poem of the late Middle Ages. It is based on, it is the story, the subject matter is on the subject matter is from the Trojan War. Trojan War is the subject matter of Troilus and Cressida. In Troilus and Cressida, Geoffrey Chaucer used the rhyme royal form with much dexterity and with beauty. And one of the most oft-quoted lines from Troilus and Cressida is, "Oh God, if no love, oh God, what I feel so. If no love, oh God, what I feel so." What feel I so? This line is oft-quoted lines from Troilus and Cressida. And his last phase of poetic career, the last phase of Chaucer's poetic career is the English phase. English phase. English phase. English phase. And the greatest achievement of this phase is the Canterbury Tales. The Canterbury Tales. It is Chaucer's masterpiece, magnum opus, the greatest individual accomplishments. So, the greatest achievements of English phase is the Canterbury Tales. For the general idea of the tales, Chaucer may be indebted to Boccaccio, but the treatment of the tales is essentially English. Chaucer probably began writing it around 1387, and the work was incomplete at his death in 1400. 29 pilgrims, including 29 pilgrims, including Chaucer, including Chaucer, meet at the tavern inn at Southwark with an object of setting out for a pilgrimage to the tomb of Thomas a Becket at Canterbury. From the pilgrimage from Southwark to Canterbury. At the suggestion of the host of the tavern inn, each pilgrim is required to tell two tales on way there and two tales on way back. But it so happens that Chaucer only finished 20 and left 4 partly complete. 20 complete, 4 partly complete. So there are 24 tales in the Canterbury Tales, and a general prologue is a masterly prologue is attached to the main work, which is known as the general prologue to the Canterbury Tales. Now we shall move on to why Geoffrey Chaucer is so significant, so important to the students, to the learners of English literature. His importance, Chaucer's importance. His importance. His importance. First, his place in English literature. Chaucer and his works occupy an unique position in the history of English literature. Chaucer, poet, critic Matthew Arnold says that with him is born the real poetry. With him is born the real poetry. With him is born the real poetry. This is how poet critic Matthew Arnold praises Geoffrey Chaucer, acknowledging his pioneering contribution to English literature. With him is born the real poetry, says Matthew Arnold, acknowledging his pioneering contribution to English literature. Chaucer not only lifted the poetry of England to the height of outstanding glory, he also distinguished himself as a father of English drama before the drama was born. And it is no exaggeration to call him the father of English novel before the novel was born. So Chaucer and his works occupy an unique place in the history of English literature. Our second point is his contribution to English language. Chaucer's contribution to English language is path-breaking. Chaucer found English a dialect and left it a language. In other words, he found English brick and left it a marble. Then, English language was divided into a number of dialects. Of them, the four were most prominent, and they are Southumbrian dialect, Midland, especially the East Midland dialect, Northumbrian, and Kentish. The Midland dialects, especially the East Midland dialects, was spoken in London and its surrounding areas. Moreover, it was patronized by the aristocrats and the literary circle of the country. Chaucer adopted the East Midland dialects and helped it to grow into the national language of England. Next, his contribution to English versification. Chaucer's contribution to English versification is no less striking. He abandons altogether the Old English irregular lines and the ram, ram, raf. Ram, ram, raf. Ram, ram, raf of alliterative measure. He abandons this. He abandons the Old English irregular lines and the ram, ram, raf of alliterative measures. Instead, he virtually imported the decasyllabic lines from French and employed in his poetry. Decasyllabic means iambic pentameter. Decasyllabic lines, he imported decasyllabic lines from France, and employed it in his poetry. And his poetic stanza is popularly known as Chaucerian stanza or the rhyme well. 7-line iambic pentameter stanza. Our next point is, and the final point is, the next point is Chaucer the realist. Chaucer the realist. Chaucer is a true realistic poet. He mirrors directly the social picture of his time in his works, especially in the Canterbury Tales. And before he represents his own age, before Chaucer, English poetry was an affair of dream and allegory. And it is Chaucer who brings English poetry down to the earth. So, this is all about Geoffrey Chaucer, his life, his works, his contribution, and his importance in history of English literature. So, comment me how the video is. Please subscribe my channel, and thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.